up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for April 5th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Saturday edition of the podcast. I want to wish my dad a very happy birthday. If you know my dad, go reach out to him, say happy birthday. He's not on Facebook anymore, but if you have his number or will be seeing him, make sure you wish him a very happy birthday. The OG this day in Philly Sports History guy. Let's do some quick housekeeping notes. First, be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, at PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and continue to spread the word as we grow this thing. Lots of fun things on the horizon. Lots of good things happening. Had a lot of good feedback yesterday on our Fridays with AI segment. Lots of people saying that the AI got John Chaney's thoughts and how he'd feel about the current state very, very well. And a few people say they like the idea of the deep dive where AI created that whole conversation based on the interview. The one issue I have is with I got to figure out something better. I told you, everything's a work in progress here, but the presentation for YouTube, since sometimes you're not able to put clips due to copyright things and things of that nature. So still, like I said, a work in progress. We will continue to work with AI, and as the technology grows, so will the segment. But thanks for all the feedback for that. Let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. Going into the Phillies-Dodgers series, I said, how many of these games do the Phillies need to win to make you feel better? Lots of good discussion on this. Lots of people all over the place, but 50% said they need to take 2 of 3. So thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. I am not in that camp. I was more concerned, not so much with the amount of wins, but the way they played. And a lot of people, Pat from Drescher, Kyle from Coatesville, agreed with that. Solid pitching, good at-bats, and not get run out of the stadium and show that you can compete with them. Both of those guys said that, and I tend to agree. So how did it turn out? Well, what a game. What a game. 3-2 Phils win. And it was an electric playoff atmosphere. Jesus Luzardo was outstanding. 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, 2 walks, 8 Ks. Just seemed like he was in command. Really seemed like he was enjoying pitching in that environment too, like the big game environment. Didn't have that when he was down in Miami. And then what can we say about JT Realmuto? That was just absolute masterclass in catching and throwing out base runners. And the fact that the Dodgers kept doing it, and I get why they were doing it, but JT was on his A-plus game yesterday. Really saved the game for the Phillies. Jordan Romano was like, a little shaky there, but got the job done. And to the Dodgers' credit, Yamamoto was dealing as well on the mound. But the way the Phillies offense, and my takeaway from this, and again, great that they won the game, but going into that series, what I wanted to see was them solid play, good at-bats, good pitching. They had good pitching. They had solid at-bats. He at one point, he did retire how many ever, 13 batters I think it was in a row, but they were quality at-bats. They were productive at-bats, moving base runners. They didn't have, I took I did a player prop bet. I took Luzardo and Yamamoto both over their strikeout props and parlayed them together, and Yamamoto didn't hit it. Luzardo's was 6, and I think Yamamoto's was 7. So kudos to the Phillies batters for at least early here in the season changing their approach. And was that a little bit of evidence of small ball I saw yesterday? Perhaps manufacturing some runs, running on the base paths, forcing the Dodgers to make mistakes. That is exactly what you want. So if they can keep this up and then mix in, once the weather gets warmer, the long ball, maybe we underrated what this Phillies team is capable of. But from an offensive standpoint, that's what you wanted to see. Defensively, like I said, JT is just an absolute stud. And I think you're going to see at some point an offensive decline from him. But that's okay if he's going to play defense like that, man. Like, that was just outstanding. Like, textbook how you want to teach your kids how to throw down to second base. So, great win for the Phils. They're back at it this afternoon. Aaron Nola on the mound today. Hopefully he's ready to bounce back from a rough start in his first. And again, like that first start, he was cruising until he gave up the home run. So we'll see what happens, but good start to this series for the Phillies. And no matter what happens now the rest of the series, I need to see them play the way they played yesterday and show that they are capable. And going into the series, I meant to mention this earlier, Bryce was interviewed and was asked about what the Dodgers were doing and all of the high price. And he was like, look, some people aren't going to like this, but losers complain. They're doing what they're doing. We need to go and take care of what we need to take care of. And I really like that mentality, and he's right. We can't complain about them. Like, we are maybe not their equal from a talent standpoint, but we showed yesterday we can go toe-to-toe for them. And I think this is that whole new Philly mentality. I'm bringing it back. New Philly. Why not the Phillies? Why can't the Phillies go toe-to-toe with these teams? So we'll see how they respond and come back today. But a good start to this 3-game weekend series. But that does lead to today's question of the day. So far this season with the Phils, what has surprised you the most, the pitching or the hitting? And if you take out that first game with the Shadows down in Washington, they haven't struck out that much. So what has surprised you more, their at-bats and their hitting or their pitching? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off of your chest. I think for me it's the hitting. And again, it's a small sample size, so I need to see more of it. But if this is what their plate approaches are going to be like, again, look out. This team could be dangerous. But let me know your thoughts on that. Sixers back in action tonight against the Timberwolves. They're 2 games up on the Nets for the 5th spot, 2 games back of the 4th spot with 5 games to play. Buckle up. We're coming in for a landing. Flyers back in action tonight as well against the Montreal Canadiens. Mishkov is looking to continue his dead cat bounce hot streak since John Tortorella has been fired. So hopefully that continues as well. And the Flyers also have, I think, 5 games left. And then the Union also returned to action tonight down at Subaru Park to take on Orlando City. They're 1 point back currently in the Eastern Conference standings of Miami. So hopefully they're able to get back to their early season winning ways. Be sure to check out my friends over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Lots of great things happening on their sports fan network. Go to clashingconferences.com for details and to see what they have to offer, how you can get involved. And then their podcasts are available wherever you get podcasts as well as on YouTube. And then, of course, Philly Goat. Go get your Phillies gear, celebrate the big win. Get your golf shirts, get the fans, whatever you got, Philly Goat, or whatever you need, Philly Goat's got it. Get the Tush Push shirt. All of that is available at phillygoat.com. Be sure to use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. And truthfully, take the time to just go through and check out what they have on their sites, because the more you scroll down, the more hidden gems you find. So go to Philly Goat, have some fun, and use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, today we're going to go back to 1967. And on this day in 1967, the Sixers beat the Celtics 115-104 in the Eastern Division Finals to take a commanding 3-0 lead in that playoff series. And the storyline was all Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. They put on a show, both of them messing around and almost had triple-doubles. Each came up 1 assist short. Bill Russell, 10 points, 29 rebounds, and those 9 assists. Wilt Chamberlain, 20 points, those 9 assists, and 41 rebounds. You heard that correctly. 41 rebounds. That is an NBA record that still stands today for a playoff game. And you know I like to do this if you're keeping score at home. The modern record is basically since 1984. I kind of considered the modern. There were some guys in the 70s, but 3 guys have done this, and the closest anybody's come is 26, and that was Bismack Biyombo, Dwight Howard and Hakeem Olajuwon each had 26 rebounds in a playoff game. So it kind of puts into perspective Wilt Chamberlain's. And if you look at the top 20 top rebounding games in the playoffs, most of the people in the top 10 are either Wilt Chamberlain or Bill Russell. The Sixers would go on to win that series against the Celtics in 5 games and then go to the NBA Finals where they beat the San Francisco Warriors, the former Philadelphia Warriors, in 6 games to win the NBA championship. One of the greatest teams ever assembled. But on this day, it was Sixers over the Celtics to take a 3-0 lead in the East Division Finals. Wilt Chamberlain with 41 rebounds, an NBA playoff record. All right, and finally today, we're going to continue our discussion with Lenny Wagner. He is the author of Playing with the Best, One Man's Journey Through the Golden Age of Sports. It's a story of Walter French, and we've talked a lot about Walter and his amazing story. We talked earlier this week about his Philadelphia Athletics career. He won a World Series. Yesterday, we started to talk about his pro football career. I spent a lot of time talking about the sort of early days of pro football and the NFL. But today, we know Bo, we know Dion, but long before them, there was Walter French. He was a 2-sport star, and still to date, even though officially not recognized, and we'll get more into that tomorrow, a 2-time champion in both Major League Baseball as well as the NFL. So let's go to Lenny and see what he has to say today.
In 1925, the Pottsville Maroons, which was basically a coal mining town up in Schuylkill County, had a very good team that played in the Anthracite League, all the old coal mining towns. And they joined the NFL in 1925. So Walter went to Connie Mack. Connie Mack had just announced that Walter was going to be a starting right fielder in 1926. So Walter had to approach him. This isn't analogous to what he went through in 1923. He needed to get Connie Mack's sign off. So he went and met with Connie Mack, and years later recalled that Mack initially said no. But Walter talked to him about how much money he could make. And I think Mack was a little surprised by that and said, okay, I can't deny you that, so you go ahead and play. So he played for the Maroons, and he did very well. He led the NFL in yards per carry. He scored 5 touchdowns in 9 games. Only a handful of people in the NFL scored more touchdowns than he did. He wasn't a featured back on the team. That was a guy named Tony Latone. And the style of play that the Maroons, it used in those days was kind of a straight ahead, no flash, kind of pound and ground, what we would, kind of thing. And they lost 1 game to Providence, because Providence just kind of geared up to stop the run, and they realized they needed some faster outside guys. And so Charlie Berry has a great end, and Walter French, provided that extra look that the Maroons needed. And they went on to win, 9. They ended up their season 9-2. Now, in those days in the NFL, there was no playoff games. It was just whichever team had the best record at the end of the year would be declared the champ. And also, the schedule was a little loosey-goosey compared to what it is today. So as long as you played a game prior to December 20th, it would count as a legitimate game in your standings. Whether or not it was on your schedule when the season began or not, that was immaterial. So at the end of the season, the Maroons and the Chicago Cardinals had essentially the same record. And the owner of the Cardinals contacted the owner of the Maroons and challenged him to a game that they said would decide once and for all, who's the champ. So it was almost like it became a playoff game, even though there was really no such thing. The game's played in Chicago at Comiskey Park. It's a freezing cold day. The Maroons go up there and beat them 21-7. And Walter French is far and away the star of the game for the Maroons. The newspapers said French runs wild and win over the Cardinals. So he was really the big hero of the game.
All right, thank you, Lenny. Again, an amazing story. The fact that here he is in the de facto championship game, stepping up, being the best player on the field, doing what the team needs to win. It just goes to show just how amazing this dude's story is. And I mean, I don't know. Like, I enjoy every time. Like, I sat down with Lenny, and every time we listen to these clips, it's like I get like I'm intrigued and interested in what it's going to what's going to happen. Tomorrow we'll talk more about the Pottsville Maroons with Lenny, as well as their legacy. But if you want to see Lenny, he will be at the Mount Laurel Historical Society April 8th, which is Tuesday, at 7 p.m., doing a little presentation and signing his book. So go check that out. I'll be there. Come over, say hello. But we'll finish up our Walter French discussion with Lenny Wagner tomorrow. But be sure to Lenny's book is available wherever you get your books, as well as on Audible. So go check that out. On this day in 1967, Sixers beat the Celtics 115-104 to take a 3-0 lead in the East Division Finals. Wilt Chamberlain with 41 rebounds, setting an NBA record for playoff rebounds, or for rebounds in a playoff game, I should say. We will have more on the Union, Sixers, Flyers, and of course, Game 2 of the Phillies-Dodgers series tomorrow. Don't forget to say happy birthday to my dad. Go have a Saturday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for April 5th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.